Hello everyone, this is Dennis at Boulder Sounds. Welcome to the video demo of the Harmoniums of the Opera sample library. This library features two rare harmoniums. The first one is owned by the Metropolitan Opera in New York City, and it's an electric harmonium. And the second one is an acoustic harmonium, which dates back to the 1840s, and that one is owned by the Juilliard School in Lincoln Center as well. So I'm going to give you a little tour of the instrument, the way it's set up. First thing I'd like to point out is hover over mouse help. And the way that works is if you point your mouse just at any knob on the instrument, you can see in the bottom of the screen, left-hand corner, there's the icon I, and it describes whatever that particular knob or button does. So it's a very quick sort of live online manual to figure out what these various functions are if you don't want to refer to the PDF manual. So it's important that in the upper left hand corner of contact up here where it says info, that is clicked and highlighted. If it's grayed out, that function will not work. So you'll need to turn it on and you're ready to go. Another very useful feature is to know how to assign a continuous controller to a particular knob or button. So if I point my mouse to the attack knob here on the amplitude envelope, hold down the control key, or on the PC it's a right click, and it says learn MIDI CC number automation. So I just click on that, and then I have to just move whatever that particular controller is I want to use. So on my controller I'm using an expression pedal, so I just press the pedal down and you can see the values change as I go up and down. Maximum value I have it is 200 milliseconds, and I have it set to the minimum value of 25, but you can go lower than that if you wish. So at 200 milliseconds we'll have a slower attack. And then at 25 it's a much faster attack, good for faster passages. So you can control that in real time. Also, if I want to reset it to its default value, I can command click on it. So on the attack button there, and it goes to 100 milliseconds. On the PC it's control and click. Also, since harmoniums do not have sustain pedals, what I could do is I could assign my sustain pedal, for example, to turn the vibrato on the harmonium on and off. So I do the same process. Control click, assign a CC number, and then I'm just going to press down my sustain pedal. And so when the pedal's down, there's vibrato on. When I release it, no vibrato. So that could be one use of your sustain pedal for the harmonium. So first I'm going to give you a demo of the Metropolitan Opera's harmonium, and a lot of the parameters on this will apply to the Juilliard harmonium as well. Also, one thing I'd like to point out in this video demo is that the key noise sound you're hearing is actually my controller keyboard coming through the microphone on my collar. So this sound is not part of the harmonium sample. So sorry, you'll have to hear a bit of that as well. Another nice feature is if you go to the lower right hand corner here, you have a drop down menu which says main page. If you click on that, you have an about page, and that's a inline manual on context front panel. And this page does change depending on whatever page you're on. So here's the effects page, and then if you go down to the about page, you have information all about the effects as well. So that's to make life easier. We can go back to the instrument page, and this is where I'll begin to really show you the instrument. Okay, so now on the instrument page again we have the stop buttons. We have stop 1, 2, and 3. Right now 2 is turned on. You can turn on and off stops by clicking with the mouse. You always have to have one stop enabled. You can also, instead of doing that, use key switches, which are assigned down here. And you see the green key switches, those are the single stops, stops 1, 2, and 3. The yellow key switches are various combinations of those 3 stops. So we have 7 stops total. And while we're talking about key switches, on the top end of the keyboard, we have the red key, which is for turning the vibrato effect on and off. Later on, I'll show you how I can reassign where those key switches are located, so they don't necessarily need to be right here. And there's a panel that very easily lets you set it to wherever you want it to be. For example, if I want to move this D up to E, if it's a little too close to the C and I'm playing the C in a piece of music and I'm afraid I might hit it by accident and turn on the vibrato, a nice solution is to move that E up a little further up the keyboard so it's out of the way. So just to give you a feel for what the stops sound like, stop number 2. Has a very nice kind of pure sound to it. Stop number 1. Has a more reedy, kind of almost bassoon-like quality, and it's lower pitched. And stop number 3 is the highest stop. Stop number 2 and 1. And all 3 stops. Now you'll notice on the blue keys there, if you count the octaves, we have 5 octaves. That's how many octaves the keyboard was. But when you combine it with all 3 stops, we actually have a range of 7 octaves to choose from. Okay, we have 3 tabs. We have a Settings tab, we have an Instrument tab, and Effects tab. I'll start with the Instrument tab. I previously explained a little bit about the Amplitude Envelope tab, where we have an attack control knob. We also have an attack curve, choosing from concave or a convex shape. Here's a feature that's really cool, where it says volume control. Right now it's on selected continuous control number, CC number. The harmonium is not a velocity sensitive instrument. But we can make it velocity sensitive since we're dealing with a virtual emulation of it. So if we choose velocity, now I can play with more control. Soft notes will be softer, and I hit the keys harder and it'll be louder. So that's something you can't do on a real harmonium. So if you have good keyboard technique, which I definitely do not, but I'll play a drone in the left hand very softly, and then I can make the melody sing out more clearly over that. So now if I switch that drop-down menu back to selected CC number, right now the default is set to CC number 1, the modulation wheel. So we have something like this. I'll just move the mod wheel back and forth. So you can create that kind of pumping, swelling kind of effect. And I'll later show you on the settings page how to change the CC assignment and how to adjust how much it's going to affect the volume control. Also, since this is an electric harmonium, you don't pump it with your foot with a bellows. It's created by a motor and a blower, and the blower blows the air over the reeds. On this particular harmonium, it was very problematic. It was very noisy. So what we did is we removed the noise from the samples, then we sampled the noise by itself and added it back in, and you can turn that blower noise on or off or adjust the volume. So here's what it sounds like when you turn it on, and it's complete with a click of the button that turns it on. And I'll turn it off, and you'll notice it'll kind of wind down. And I'll show you on the settings page later how you can adjust the level of the fan if you want to use it, that is. Also on the instrument front panel, we have effects buttons. So this is just quick access to these effects to turn them on and off. You can edit them in more detail on the effects page, but for example, right now we have space turned on, which is a convolution reverb. It's very subtle, it's an ambient reverb. But for example, if I turn the rotator on, here's without the rotator, and rotator, turn a delay on with that very quickly. Okay, so that's those buttons are added there for your convenience. Okay, let's move on to the settings page. So on the settings page, you have this key switch map here, and what this allows you to do is to relearn the assigned key switches. If you want to put the key switches elsewhere, then they're already assigned. So for example, stop 1, if I do not want it to be here down on this F, let's say I want it on the D, I'm going to click on that key, and it says learn stop 1. So you can either click on it with the mouse, or you can trigger it from your controller keyboard. And you can see right there, the F has moved. That was on the green key on F has now moved to D, and it shows stop 1 is assigned to D -1, and we can do that with various keys. Learn stop 2, I might put it on D, I'll put it on E, etc. And so that's how that works. You can just assign those, and the green stops are single stops, the yellow are combinations, as I believe I previously mentioned. And we can also assign key switch for the vibrato. You can learn that as well. So if I click on the learn vibrato, it's up here on this high D. I might move it up to E, and there it is. It's that simple. But I will move it back to the D. So very convenient. On the settings tab under keyboard, we have a choice of player's perspective or public perspective, so you can hear it as though you're sitting behind the instrument playing it, or if you're out in front of it in the audience hearing the instrument. And also the spread knob determines how much the keyboard is spread out from low to high, panned or spread out. So right now it's at 50%. To demonstrate it so it's exaggerated, I'll turn it all the way to 100%. If I go low, so you should have gotten an exaggerated sense of the keys being very far to the left and then very far to the right as you go higher. So right at the moment, I have the volume controlled by the mod wheel, CC number 1. But let's say I want to use velocity again. So I switch this over to velocity. You go back to the settings panel, and you'll notice there's an extra knob here all of a sudden. It says velocity 50%. So if I turn that up, say, to 100%, we're going to get extreme velocity response. So a very wide dynamic range. If I turn it down to 0, it's essentially not effective. Everything is at the same volume regardless of how I hit the keys. It's kind of a velocity scaling parameter that you can adjust depending on what you need. So that'll be useful. And if you want to reset it to its default value, you just, on the Mac, do Command click. And there we are, back at 50%. Okay, next is the stereo field heading. And below that, we have width. So the width is going to give you, if you turn it fully counterclockwise, you get a mono signal. If you go all the way fully clockwise, you're going to get a very exaggerated stereo spread. So here's mono. And here's a wide spread. Panning control does just that. It just pans the instrument left or right. So that's all left channel and all right channel. But I will center it, and that's the default setting. Next in this column we have vibrato control. So you can set the amount of vibrato. So when you're on the instrument panel, if you turn the vibrato on, which is up here, or you could use the key switch. I should have done that, but so we have it set at 25%. And the original instrument did have a switch that said vibrato, which sounded very, very much like this. So if I go back to the settings page, if I want even more subtle vibrato, I could change it lower, below 25%. So or a great deal more. So now in this column, I have select volume CC number, and right now it's set to number 1 for the modulation wheel. However, I need to go back to the instrument page and check to see if velocity is controlling the volume. So if it is, we need to switch it back to select CC number. Then the settings I make on this page will become active. So right now it's set to number 1, modulation wheel. But let's say I want to assign it to a pedal so I can have both hands free to play a bigger, thicker textured piece of music. I'll assign it to my expression pedal, which is CC number 11. And I'm going to move the pedal back and forth. So that's pretty much the way it's set up on the original Harmonium. There is a volume pedal on there. And in the next column we have adjust fan. So this is the noise of the fan. And so if we turn that on, I go back to the instrument panel, I turn the blower fan on. There it is. If you want to hear it in all its glory, it's at minus 18 dB right now. That's what she sounded like. Not the greatest sound when it's loud, but you might want a little subtle effect with that in the background for certain things, for realism. And also the button below it, you can turn the click of the fan on and off when you hit the fan switch on the instrument panel.